Welcome to Table for 92, element number 81, thallium. It's number 81 because it has exactly 81 protons within its nucleus. For thallium, we're cooking up some lait Welsh, a very interesting dish that is, pretty much like the French equivalent of beer cheese on toast, like the Welsh rarebit. I'm cooking this because the discoverer, or one of the discoverers of thallium, was from Lille, France, a city that I've been to many times and where I first ate lait Welsh. Well, it's one of the places credited with the discovery of thallium. There's like a dispute between a British guy and a Frenchman on who deserved credits, right, for the discovery, but we'll get into that later. And I decided to go with a French dish based on a Welsh dish that I'm doing for this recipe. I could have done a British recipe, sure, but like, hot take here, French food is better than British food. I mean, the British, they controlled a quarter of the Earth's surface to control the spice trade, and the best that they came up with was like beans on toast and spotted dick. I mean, do better, England, really. So apparently the history of lait Welsh comes from the siege of Boulogne in 1544 by a Welsh soldier stationed there during the ordeal. However, when it entered northern France, it quickly became very popular, especially since all the ingredients for lait Welsh are readily at hand there. Good yellow cheddar cheese, good Belgian dark beer, some sourdough, some good French mustard, and good ham. Grate that cheddar fresh. Bagged shredded cheddar is coated with starch or like other non-clumping ingredients. They don't melt as well. So yeah, use fresh. So first off, thallium. Google thallium. The first thing that comes up is thallium poisoning, and for good reason. Thallium is a slow, painful death that has actually kind of been like romanticized in literature and film because of how awful it is to die from exposure, but also because it has been used as a clandestine poison in the last century, used by the KGB and spies everywhere. Thallium is just one of a handful of elements that are deadly when exposed to humans. Sure, there are plenty of elements like selenium or titanium that it can be poisonous in really high doses, but thallium will wreck you with even the smallest amount. That is why it's such a good poison, and the Russians loved it. Yeah, in the US, the current acceptable standard for thallium exposure to the skin is 0.1 milligrams. So that is 1/10 of 1 milligram. That's how much is okay to be around for an 8-hour workday. A dose of 1 gram of thallium is known to have killed people. And yeah, the current guidelines are 1/1000th of that to stay safe for thallium. Do not mess around with thallium. It will kill you, and in a rather unpleasant way. Thallium can enter the body any way possible, right? It can be inhaled, ingested, it can enter through your skin. In nature though, thallium is found in plenty of minerals. It's in soil, it's in the air. It's not really a problem unless you live near a coal burning power plant that pumps thallium and other pollutants out as it burns through, coal tainted with a bunch of other stuff, right? In nature, you aren't going to pick up a rock and die of thallium poisoning, or at least it's really, really rare, very unlikely. The way thallium attacks the body though, it's just awful. It basically attacks every part of your body that keeps you alive. It attacks your nervous system, lungs, heart, liver, kidneys. Oh yeah, and your hair falls out, and there can be psychiatric effects too. So just really unpleasant. So that's why I'm not cooking food with thallium in it. Because of this, thallium is used as a rat poison for many decades. Technically it was thallium sulfate, but since the 70s, we've moved away from that because guess what? People kept on poisoning people with thallium sulfate. There was even a thallium craze in Australia in the 1950s where a bunch of people, mostly angry spouses, were poisoning their not so loved ones with thallium rat poison. But what makes thallium such a good poison is that it is odorless, it is tasteless, it dissolves in liquid without any noticeable effect. In its pure form, thallium is a soft silvery metal, but when ground into powder, it's basically invisible when added to something like even a cell phone.
Last month, I found thallium in my cell phone. It's done its job. I have a few weeks, maybe less.
At least Bond wouldn't poison anybody. He just shoots them in entertaining ways, but Mr. White was a bad man, but that's still a rough way to go. The other thing with thallium is that it is somewhat delayed when it enters the body. It doesn't kill right away, so it is perfect for a, poisoner who wants to stay anonymous. Yeah, like the symptoms don't start for about 24 hours after the poisoning has occurred. This brings us to Agatha Christie. Yeah, the greatest mystery novel of the 20th century. She worked in a pharmacy during World War I and learned about like the devastating effects of thallium poisoning there, which she later used in her fantastic novel, The Pale Horse. In The Pale Horse, spoiler alert, I guess I already said it, the victim was poisoned with thallium. And a lot of people think Agatha Christie either got that inspiration from like her work in that pharmacy or from the 1957 case of Nikolai Koklov. He was a former Soviet assassin with the KGB who defected to the United States and testified about KGB activities around the world. Yeah, the KGB, they didn't like it when their homie starts playing for the other side. So they poisoned Koklov in West Germany in 1957. He did survive, but like the case made worldwide headlines, of course. I mean, it's a juicy story. So, that could have also inspired Agatha Christie. We don't really know. But when The Pale Horse was published in 1961, it did kind of bring thallium poisoning more into popular culture than it had been before. And we think it ended up saving a few lives. Or at least we know of like one case in England, a poisoner, he was actually a factory worker. He poisoned his stepmother and a couple of work colleagues with thallium. And it is reported that like one of the only reasons the police realized that it was indeed thallium was because like everyone in England had just read The Pale Horse. So they kind of recognized it. But yeah, so don't eat thallium or touch it or breathe it or poison someone with it. Like they'll catch you. We all know about that now. All right, on to the reason I'm cooking a French or really Flemish French meal. Thallium was first discovered by William Crookes in 1861. He was English when he discovered a different green spectral line and some impure sulfuric acid. When a new color comes up on the atomic spectrum, you usually know you have something new. And Crookes knew that, he probably had an undiscovered element, and he named it after the Greek for new green shoot, as in like a new green on a tree. Thallos, so that's thallium. He announced his discovery, which was, he gets the credit for, but he didn't really like follow up his find with any substantial research. The next year, there was a French chemist, Claude Auguste Lamy from Lille, and he actually took the effort to extract it and cast a pure thallium ingot. And the French Academy of Science was like, well, our guy actually put in the work, so we're going to say from now on, he discovered thallium. P.S. England sucks, vive la France. Then Lamy sent the ingot to England for display and was given a medal for his work. So yeah, like the original guy Crookes and others were like, okay, absolutely not. Like, that's not cool. So they gave Crookes a medal too because he technically discovered it first. So, he would feel better about life and stuff. I just love how like petty these like aristocratic and like enlightened scientists were back in the day. I mean, this isn't like a unique story in like the history of how the elements were discovered. Like, I mean, there's just so much cattiness. I just love it. I need my medal too. Yeah, nowadays, like Crookes for sure, he's credited with discovering thallium, but Lamy, he's still remembered for the guy who did, the work to really bring thallium like into the light, right? So today you can't just buy thallium at the drugstore as a rat poison like we used to. We all collectively as a society decided it was just like too tempting for angry spouses or just like people in general to have access to like the perfect poison. Plus, then there's like a bunch of random thallium all over the place if like we were still doing that, so that'd be a problem. But thallium, still has a bunch of interesting uses today. In electronics, thallium sulfide is a great conductor. It's used in a lot of photocells. There also is a long history of thallium in glass making. This is really fascinating, actually. For one, thallium gives off like a green spectral line, but what's really interesting is when thallium is added to glass, it brings its melting temperature way down. Usually it's about 1500 Celsius. It brings it down to as low as 150 Celsius, which is in Fahrenheit equivalent to 2700 Fahrenheit, bringing down the melting temperature to 300, which is just nuts. I mean, chemistry is the best. But yeah, when a melting temperature changes like that though, it also makes the glass not shatter like normal. So it's like in safety glass and used in all sorts of stuff, especially electronics. Apparently pretty safe because I've never heard of anybody getting thallium poisoning from broken glass, so. Oh, that is so good. Eat Les Welsh, don't eat thallium. Because if you eat thallium, you die. Thanks. See you next time. Please like and subscribe. Table for 92. It's a fun show.